A food delivery app just trained a 1.6 trillion parameter AI without a single Nvidia chip. That sentence breaks the entire logic of American export controls, and every analyst calling chip restrictions a winning strategy has to rewrite their model. But here's the question nobody is answering yet. Does it matter if the model is barely better than GPT-5.5 when it costs a fraction of the price and runs on hardware Washington said couldn't do this? Meet LongCat 2.0. For 2 months, it was hiding in plain sight under a fake identity called Owl Alpha, an anonymous model on OpenRouter with no company attached. Owl Alpha became one of OpenRouter's most used models, handling roughly 10.1 trillion tokens a month, before Meituan revealed it was theirs all along. Meituan, the Chinese food delivery giant, basically the DoorDash of Beijing, except they apparently have a side hustle building frontier AI. LongCat 2.0 packs 1.6 trillion total parameters, a native 1 million token context window, released under the MIT license on June 30th, 2026. MIT means you can drop this straight into commercial products, closed source tools, your internal dev stack, no strings attached. Here's the number that makes US policymakers genuinely uncomfortable. Meituan trained and ran this entire model on a 50,000 card domestic compute cluster. No Nvidia, no AMD restricted chips. And here's the distinction everyone is sleeping on. Deepseek's V4 Pro used domestic chips only for inference, the lighter task of answering questions. LongCat 2.0 used homegrown hardware for both inference and the far more demanding pre-training stage. Pre-training is where the real compute war happens, and China just won a battle there. Therefore, Meituan's case puts direct pressure on the core assumption behind export control policy, that denying the newest Nvidia stack would prevent Chinese actors from training frontier-adjacent systems at massive scale. That assumption just cracked. Now, is LongCat 2.0 actually better than GPT-5.5? Barely, and only on the benchmarks Meituan ran themselves. They claim 59.5 on SWE-bench Pro versus GPT-5.5's 58.6, a margin under a single point, self-reported and not independently verified. Call it competitive, not clearly superior. And the full model weights aren't even public yet. Both the GitHub and Hugging Face pages still read model weights coming soon. But it doesn't have to be better than GPT 5.5 to win. It just has to be good enough and absurdly cheap. Promotional API pricing starts at 30 cents per million input tokens with free context cache hits, a fraction of GPT 5.5 costs. For agentic coding workflows that hammer the same codebase repeatedly, free cache hits is not a small thing. That's a 60 to 80% real-world cost reduction on most agent loops. The context window stretches to 1 million tokens, roughly the equivalent of feeding the model an entire large codebase and asking it to reason about the whole thing at once. For code review, multi-file refactors, architecture analysis, this architecture was built specifically for that workflow, not just another chatbot. The GitHub repo is live right now. You can watch it in real time as the weights drop. If you want to try it today, the API is already live at Meituan's platform. The weights are coming, probably within days based on the Hugging Face repo. Yes, this is the part where I ask you to subscribe. And if this affects your dev stack, you will want tomorrow's video too. Here's what you should actually do right now. First, watch the independent benchmarks over the next 48 hours. The moment full weights drop, researchers will stress test every single claim Meituan made. Second, compare LongCat 2.0 against Kimi-K 2.7 and Qwen 3. All three are MIT licensed Chinese models, now competitive with Western closed source offerings at a fraction of the price. Third, recalibrate your threat model. A growing chorus of technologists warns that US defensive regulatory moves have inadvertently backfired. By locking down Western closed source models and driving up API costs, the government left a wide operational window for affordable alternatives. When your Western alternative costs 5 times more and ships with licensing restrictions, the math becomes pretty obvious for developers seeking performance at scale. We started with a food delivery app dropping a 1.6 trillion parameter AI trained on chips Washington said couldn't do it. The assumption was no Nvidia, no frontier AI. That assumption just got delivered in under 30 minutes. 50,000 domestic chips, 1.6 trillion parameters, 30 cents per million tokens, MIT license. That is the new baseline. Like the video if this landed.